You've probably come across it maybe in articles or just conversations you've overheard. This idea that religion, especially a more conservative take on sex, leads to hang-ups, guilt, unhappiness, particularly around sex and marriage. It's almost taken as a given sometimes.
It really is. It's a strong narrative out there suggesting faith is somehow, well, restrictive or even damaging when it comes to intimacy.
And that's exactly what we're digging into today. We're doing a deep dive into a piece called Sacred Sex, Faith, Marriage, and Sexual Fulfillment. It's adapted from Brad Wilcox's book, Get Married.
And what's really interesting is how Wilcox directly counters a perspective that got a lot of attention from a New Yorker interview. That was with sociologist Samuel Perry, author of Addicted to Lust. So two quite different takes on faith and sex.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack both sides. Look at the claim that faith plays this toxic role, especially around things like porn use and how happy people are in their marriages. And then contrast that with research and stories that suggest something else entirely. You'll get a clearer picture of what the data seems to show, maybe challenge some assumptions. Okay, let's get into it. So let's start with that mainstream idea first, the one framing faith as potentially destabilizing. The New Yorker piece featuring Samuel Perry really painted a picture, didn't it? It suggested Christian men in communities were, quote, rife with depression, unhappiness, and disrupted marriages because of an archaic Christian sexual ethic. Pretty strong stuff.
Very strong. And the article even used Perry's term, the purity industrial complex, most, well, mockingly. It referred to things like books, support groups, software aimed at helping evangelical men avoid porn. The undertone was almost that these efforts themselves were part of the problem, maybe fueling guilt.
So Perry talks about cognitive dissonance, right? This idea that Christian men are kind of trapped. How does he say that plays out for them emotionally?
Well, he describes this intense internal struggle. On one side, the belief that sex is sacred just for their wife. On the other, maybe a desire to look at pornography.
Yeah.
And this clash, this dissonance, he argues, leads straight to guilt and shame that make you feel crappy about yourself.
Yeah.
A real internal conflict.
And it affects the wives, too, according to Perry.
That's what he claims. He said evangelical Protestant women often see porn use as deeply serious, literally adultery or a betrayal. And because of that, he asserted they're twice as likely to divorce their husband over his porn use.
The article really highlighted this with two examples, David and Nick. David, the Christian guy, was described as tortured, deflated, and deeply unhappy from his weekly porn use, feeling like a failure, a hypocrite, intimacy supposedly stolen from his marriage.
And then Nick, the secular man, he used porn weekly too, but was shown as comfortable with it. Pretty vanilla, standard fare. He said he didn't think it was morally wrong. He acknowledged some side effects, like fantasizing about others, but wasn't presented as crippled, like David. The contrast was clearly intentional.
So the takeaway Perry seems to offer is that religion kind of bottles up sexual desire, causing frustration and acting out. He talks about recurrent moral incongruence from porn, plus the cover-up and deceit, negatively impacting mental health, and even faith for conservative Protestants. It's a very critical view.
It is, and that's where our main source, Wilcox's work, comes in and says, hold on, that picture is deceptive. It argues that actually the broader evidence points towards faith generally being a positive force for marriage, for life satisfaction, even for kids.
And there's some compelling data there.
Yeah.
Like the divorce statistic. Regular churchgoers are what, 30 to 50% less likely to divorce than those who don't attend?
Yeah.
That's significant.
It's a huge difference. It really challenges that narrative of faith causing disruption, and specifically on pornography. The 2022 State of Our Union survey found only 35% of religious husbands said they'd viewed porn in the last month. Compare that to 62% of married men who rarely or never attend services. That's nearly double.
Wow. And didn't another survey, the General Social Survey, show something similar?
It did. A clear majority of church-going Protestant men reported not using porn in the last year, whereas a majority of men who weren't regular churchgoers did use it. So the numbers just don't seem to support the idea that faith drives more porn use or struggle.
So beyond the stats, the Wilcox piece talks about sacred sex in practice. It gives an example, Martin.
Yes, Martin, a Black Christian husband and father. He actively tries to avoid porn, and his faith is central to that. He's careful online, deliberately keeps scrolling past tempting images on social media.
And that's not just online, is it? It affects his real-world choices, too.
Exactly. He avoids what he calls compromising situations. He and his wife, Kimberly, they've set up guardrails. Things like not keeping ties with old romantic partners or not going out drinking alone with other people. It's about being intentional based on their shared values.
And this carries over into their intimate life, too.
Apparently so. They pray together about their sex life, have ongoing talks about needs, frequency, satisfaction, which, I mean, sounds pretty healthy, right? Especially compared to how taboo the topic can be.
It really does. And Kimberly's story is quite powerful, too. How faith helped her process past trauma.
Yes, she'd experienced sexual abuse earlier in life, and her faith was key in helping her heal and overcome difficulties with intimacy when she first got married. It shows a supportive, healing potential there.
And this seems reflected more broadly, like wives in religious marriages feeling their husbands are more considerate about sex.
That's what the data suggests. Wives are more likely to say he's considerate if she's not in the mood. And conversely, husbands in religious marriages are more likely to say their wives are responsive when they initiate. It points to, perhaps, more mutual respect and understanding.
Okay, so if we're seeing less porn use, potentially healthier dynamics, what about, actual sex? Frequency and satisfactions leads to the big question. What did the numbers show? The IFS State of Our Union's survey data seems pretty clear. There's this clear attendance gradient for sexual frequency. What's that look like?
It means it steps up consistently with attendance.
Right.
So about 2/3, 65% of husbands, 66% of wives who attend services regularly together have sex at least weekly. But that drops way down to 40% for husbands and 45% for wives who never or rarely go. It's a clear pattern.
And the effect size, the impact of going from never attending to attending regularly is substantial.
It really is. We're talking a 25 percentage point jump for husbands and a 21-point jump for wives in having sex weekly. That's not a small thing. It's a major difference in their reported experience.
Wow. And it's the same story for sexual satisfaction. It follows that same stair-step pattern.
Exactly the same. Around three-quarters, 75% husbands, 73% wives who attend regularly together say they're very happy with their sex life. That drops to 47% for husbands and 52% for wives who never or rarely attend. Again, a really big gap.
So going from never to regular attending boosts being very happy by about 28 points for husbands, 21 for wives. And it's not just extremes, right? Occasional attendance falls in the middle.
Precisely. It shows what researchers call a dose-response relationship. The more the engagement generally, the stronger the reported positive outcome seems to be.
Okay, the correlation looks strong. So why might this be happening? What are some potential explanations for this link between shared faith and, well, better sex?
Well, one thought is simply the shared ritual, the time together. Attending services gives couples dedicated time, maybe away from kids or work stresses. That regular shared activity could easily foster closeness and intimacy, just carving out that time.
That makes sense. And shared values, too. If you agree on the big stuff, maybe there's just less friction overall.
Definitely. Couples sharing a faith often report more alignment on morals, life priorities. Less conflict generally means, well, a better environment for intimacy, doesn't it? More harmony.
And the community aspect, does that play a role?
It likely does. Religious communities often actively encourage marital commitment, communication. They might offer support networks, maybe marriage classes or mentorship. Having that external support and reinforcement for the marriage could definitely strengthen the bond.
But we do have to mention selection effects, don't we?
Yeah.
The possibility that maybe couples who already have strong relationships are just more likely to attend church together. So is it the church causing the better outcome, or are happier couples just drawn to church? It's that classic correlation versus causation question.
Absolutely. And it's probably not an either. It's likely a mix. Existing strengths might draw people in, and then the practices and community might reinforce those strengths. It's complex.
So pulling this all together, what's the main takeaway for you listening?
Well, despite that common narrative we started with, the research we've looked at suggests that for many couples, deeper religious engagement correlates pretty strongly with having sex more often, being more satisfied with it, and having more stable marriages overall. It's quite a counter-narrative to the idea that faith is mainly repressive or damaging to intimacy. There's no religious magic pill, as Wilcox says, but there seems to be a real sociological pattern here.
Yeah, it suggests that while individual stories will always vary, of course, the big picture from the data looks quite different from some common assumptions or media portrayals.
Indeed. So maybe the next time you hear a sweeping statement about something complex like faith and relationships, it's worth asking, what assumptions are baked in there? How might the popular story differ from what broader data suggests? And what do we maybe gain by looking a bit deeper beyond the headlines to grasp the whole, often more nuanced picture?